Welcome back to the Real with Joseph Labman. I am Joseph Labman. Hope you guys having a great week. Happy Thursday to you guys. Yeah, it's getting warmer here. It's sunny out. Feels like early spring already. So, welcome on in. Hope you guys are having a great week. Like I said, if you're new here, everybody hit the subscribe button for me. I'd really appreciate that. We're almost to 100 subscribers. It's been quite a journey. So, doing this the last years, it's been some ups and some downs along the way. But man, it's been great and it's been awesome doing this and growing and evolving, which I'll continue to do with the show. But yeah, I'm really grateful and give all the praise to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, most importantly, and the people who have helped me along the way, my people close to me. But yeah, if you're new here, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Help your boy out. Really appreciate that. Everybody hit that like button for me to help me fight the algorithms. It really helped me out a lot as well to promote my content. And leave a comment below and share this content if you wouldn't mind. I'd really appreciate that if you'd share it online. But yeah, let's get into it. So today I'm going to touch on the Cavs here coming up. The Cavs have been rolling. They're the hottest team in basketball right now. We'll get into them here in a little bit. And I got some more than anxiety wisdom for you guys as well about sticking true to yourself. It's something I had to remind myself of, especially in the last couple months. Just staying true to me and not allowing things in the outside world, things we can't control, to affect us and move us in a direction that isn't healthy for us, especially mentally. So we'll get into that. But I want to start with some Browns news here today. The Browns have hired Andy Dickerson as their new offensive line coach. I like Andy Dickerson a lot. They also interviewed him, I think, for the OC job at one point early on. I think he was their first interview. You could tell they really liked him. A lot of other teams liked him around the league as well. Obviously, the Browns losing Bill Callahan, probably the greatest offensive line coach of all time, to go coach with his son, which is pretty cool. Um, I wasn't really surprised by that move. I thought maybe there was a good chance or a decent chance maybe they can keep him around just because you don't really know. Sometimes guys don't want to go coach with their sons, or maybe Brown's going to give him more money. But I think what this move signaled to me, him leaving and then them bringing in Andy Dickerson. If you look at Andy Dickerson's background, coached with the Rams for a long time in that system, coaching the Seahawks system with Geno Smith, and you look at what Ken Dorsey is coming, coaching Cam Newton all those years, coaching Josh Allen. You're kind of seeing now the new identity in the building, a different philosophical alignment. And so I think the reason why a lot of these older coaches that we had, who are great coaches, Alex Van Pelt, obviously Bill Callahan, Stump Mitchell, all those guys, I think there's a reason why those guys are out the door, and why Ken Dorsey's going to be calling plays. And I think because, like I said, what I've been saying for a while. They need to build an offense built around Deshaun's skill set, which I think overall will help the offense itself be even better than we've ever seen. Because we haven't really seen it that much yet. And so here's Andy Dickerson here on the screen. You guys don't know what he looks like, but um, I think this is a good hire here. I think Andy Dickerson's a really good coach. Watching some of his clips of him coaching, reading about him and his background and his style of teaching. I think he's really good. I think the Seahawks have always had a really good offensive line since he's been there. They draft well, but he's also been a big part of them developing the players and getting them up to par. They were always really good in the trenches in Seattle. So I like the hire a lot, but I think what this really signals to me is kind of what I've been saying all along, that there's going to be a new play caller in Ken Dorsey. But also, I think we're seeing an offensive realignment, a different identity, a different system, a different everything. Really, I think we're going to keep some of the concepts. Not like we're going to get rid of everything that Kevin Stefanski had, but a lot of new though, which is built around, like I said, Deshaun's skill set, which will help evolve everybody else. And I think it actually benefit a guy like Nick Chubb even more, because I think the more they run more pistol, especially, and the more spread out offense, it's going to open up the box even more for Nick Chubb as well, and in the running back. So I think more space, more pace, more up tempo, which is what they need. I think at times we've seen the opposite of that in the last 4 years at times, which has caused a lot of their inconsistencies. And I think it was time to evolve. I think that offense they were running, that old school with the older coaching staff, which is where those guys came from. They're great coaches, but that was more their system as well, which is why they were here, the last 4 years with Kevin's system. But more of that old school Gary Kubiak style offense that is just a little outdated. And you saw like in the mic'd up in the playoff game against the Texans, D'Amico Ryans kind of told his linebacker, like, just be there, like be at this one spot and the ball's coming to you. And it happened because everybody knows that system. You can pick up on it really fast. It's just not it's outdated. It needs to be, they need an evolution, but also you need to fit the style around your quarterback and the rest of your players on your team. You have an athletic tight end, a unicorn type tight end like Njoku with incredible yak. Um, you got a guy like Amari Cooper. You still got Elijah Moore. You got Cedric Tillman still, who we don't know. No, I don't know. We don't really know what Cedric Tillman is. I mean, we saw him in spurts, but he was a rookie. Didn't play last year in college either. He was hurt, so his first year back was in the NFL. So, welcome to the NFL, rookie. But we don't really know with him either. But I think a new system, though. People got to remember this. A lot of the guys we wrote off at this time last year on the defensive side of the ball, we said, "Well, these guys are scrubs. Trade them all. These guys stink." I remember there was people on on local media around here saying that JOK was a bust or he was not that good and he's the worst line. Somebody said that he was the worst linebacker they had, but then all of a sudden we get a new system in here with a new coach and a better coordinator, and look what happened. And now JOK is a Pro Bowler and one looks like one could be one of the best defensive players in the league one day. So, and a lot of these guys, I mean, look at a guy like Jordan Elliott. Jordan Elliott last year at this time, people were saying this guy was terrible. Look at him now. Now he's maybe getting a contract elsewhere. I mean, or maybe here. I mean, he's going to be getting that second deal. Like Alex Wright looks like a player now. Looks like a starter, a guy that they drafted. But it's all because of the system. That Jim Schwartz came in and put in a system that fit their skills, the skill set of the team. It was newer, it was more evolved than what they were running. And I got to look at a guy like Myles Garrett might get his first Defensive Player of the Year in a new system. So the same thing here is going to happen offensively. A lot of guys that we think are really have been bad and not that good, we don't really know what they are because they've been in a system that doesn't fit them. If the system doesn't fit to maximize the skill set of the players, you're not going to see the best of them. It's going to be hard for especially young guys like Tillman and Bell, any rookie, any young guy to grow because it doesn't fit. And that's like common sense. I mean, duh. I mean, you're not. We don't know what they are, and so doesn't mean are they going to be great players? We don't know. But my whole point though is I like what they're doing. I like bringing the new staff with more of a philosophical alignment. And I think it's going to be better for Deshaun overall. And I think it's going to be better having a guy like Ken Dorsey working with Deshaun as the play caller every step of the way from now all the way up into the season as well when they do installs and stuff. So I like Andy Dickerson. Like I said, obviously, Bill Callahan, the name itself, I think is why people had the reaction they had last week. Some people said it was like a playoffs loss, which I thought was kind of funny. But listen, Joe Bitonio is not going to stop being a future Hall of Fame left guard. Pochich and Wyatt Teller are not going to be. I don't think they're going to stop being Pro Bowlers. If you look at their especially last 3 years, both of them. Teller the last 4 years, and you look at Pochich the last 2 years. He got a second contract. He's pretty good. And DeJuan Jones is not going to. I saw DeJuan Jones is that dude at Iowa State. He just needed some good coaching or a good environment for him, which he found this year. He got in good shape and really looks like a franchise tackle for sure. So I'm not really worried about the offensive line. I think, like I said, Bill Callahan, as great as he is, there's other great offensive line coaches in the league, and I think we got one of them. I think we got a guy who's young and up and coming, who's very respected, who was sought after by other teams. And I've read his background and some people who have spoken about. I mean, he's a very highly respected coach, and he's proven. If you look at like I said, his background with the Rams and with Seattle, and they also added to Roy Istvan. I don't want to misspell his name. It's Istvan. That's who they added today as the assistant O-line coach to work with Andy Dickerson. Roy has spent the last 5 years in Philly working with Jason Kelsey as well. So you kind of see though what they're doing here. Andy Dickerson had time. He also spent time with the Patriots in his past. I think it was for a year. Was with the Browns at one point, 2009 and 10, or 2009 and 10. but I'm not surprised. I mean, and like you said, you look at Andy Dickerson, Deuce Staley, Tommy Reese, Ken Dorsey, keeping Chad O'Shea, who I like. I know a lot of people were criticizing Chad O'Shea, but I don't think Chad O'Shea. I think he's going to fit more of this as a coach, what he was used to in New England and what he came up in. I think he's going to be more used to what they could be doing now on offense, if that makes sense. In terms of philosophical, the philosophy and the alignment. Um, I think this would be better for Chad O'Shea even. And I'm not surprised. You look at the guys they brought in who have New England ties, like Andy Dickerson spent time in New England. Um, Chad O'Shea spent time in New England. You look at, I mean, Bob Quinn, who I mentioned on my show 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, he's the coaching executive of the organization. So, but I like what they're doing. They're bringing in guys with similar backgrounds who have the same kind of philosophical alignment. And kudos to Kevin Stefanski. Taking this back seat, it looks like to more of that CEO role, which I think he's actually better at because, like I said, not that Kevin's a bad play caller. It's just being a head coach and a play caller, such for a young head coach, first timer, is not for everybody. And it took Andy Reid 20 years to win a Super Bowl as doing so. It's not a high. There's not a there's not a lot of high success rate. You don't. I think the guys I named, it was Sean McVay, Andy Reid, and I think that's it. Oh, who's the guy who was in Philly? Doug Peterson. But outside of that, that's three guys out of the last 20 something years, 25 years of football. I mean, 3 out of 25 years is not a lot. And everybody else has had an offensive coordinator calling the plays. So, again, I like what they're doing. I think Andy Dickerson's a really good hire. I think he's a really good coach, up and coming guy, younger guy, but he's also proven. So, yeah, great job by them, and I'm looking forward to see what else they do. Now it's on Andrew Berry to get the personnel moves done. They got to get some receivers in here by draft and trade and free agency. I think they got to do both. To be honest with you, they need. I think they need to bring in probably at least two guys. So you need to be deep in that receiver room. You need to have some versatility and some guys that can do multiple things. So I'm looking forward to see what they do there. And also with the cap and stuff they got coming up, I think you'll probably see Nick Chubb reconstructed his contract. That's what it looks like. I don't think they're going to cut Nick Chubb, nor does anybody else that covers the team closely. Um, I don't think Nick Chubb even wants to leave, to be honest with you. I think he knows and they know. Just probably got to reconstruct the contract. The only contract I think that could be a problem is the Jack Conklin contract because um, I think if you cut him or if you moved him or I can't remember exactly what it is, but it could definitely give you a cap hit for sure. So, and that's a weird contract because DeJuan Jones has to be your starting right guard or right tackle now. So, I mean, unless you want to swing him over to left, but you still got Jed as well. Now, Jed I think's on an expiring deal. So, um, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see what they do there with the Conklin contract and that situation on the O line with shuffling the right pieces around. I mean, they got great players, but it's just what do you do with that right tackle spot there? I think DeJuan obviously has to be your starter. He's on a rookie deal, and he looks like a future Pro Bowler. So, um, it's gonna be interesting what they do there. That's the one I think, and a guy that could be moved, which I said I think Greg Newsome could be on the move, maybe for a player in return, like a receiver or some picks or a pick to move up in the draft. I don't know. Um, wouldn't really bother me as well. I think he's a really good player, but I think he's the third out of the three corners. He's the third best behind Ward and Emerson. And you got to pay a guy like JOK coming down the pipe. Obviously, you're not going to let him walk out the door at all. So, and not only that, I think a guy like I mentioned in the draft, who I think could fill right in, is Mike Sanders still out of Michigan. I think you can draft him in the third round, maybe, or maybe in the second round to replace Greg's spot. Put him in Schwartz's scheme. I like Sanders still a lot. I liked what he showed at Michigan. I thought he looked like a veteran, physical player, really good, really sounding, really played big in some big games. So I think a guy like that would fit in just fine, and replace Greg in that spot if you went down that road, which I would understand why. And you still got a guy like Cam Mitchell who showed some flashes as well. So I think they'll be fine there. But even if they move off of Greg, I think I wouldn't. Wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't blame him. So, I have to be honest with you. But not that Greg's a bad player or anything. It's just I think what's best for the team moving forward in the organization might be just a fresh start, and also helps him with flexibility down the road as well. But also you need pieces in other areas as well, like receivers. So we'll see what happens there. Moving on though to the Cleveland Cavaliers. I need some water too. The my quality H2O right there. But the Cavaliers, my Cavs, are 15-2 since January 1st, since New Year's. The Cavs have been the hottest team in basketball. They've been shooting the crap out of the ball. They brought in shooters this year, which they did not have last year. I think a lot of when you go back and watch that Knicks series, why it was so bad is because they didn't have the depth. The bench did not play well. They didn't really have a bench, and they had no shooting either. They couldn't space out the floor. So the Knicks were able just to sit inside and basically collapse the paint, and make them force the Cavs into jumpers because the Cavs didn't have many shooters last year. I think that's why when you go back and watch that series, I think Donovan Mitchell really just looked kind of gassed towards the middle of that series, towards the end. Shooting the ball short like that, his legs. When you're shooting the ball short like he was last year, missing those shots, I think a lot of it was due to just his legs being tired because he felt like he had to do so much for them to win. I mean, I remember the first game, I think at home, he had a phenomenal game, but it wasn't enough to win. So, because they just did not have the depth. Like New York had a lot more depth than the Cavs last year, but also New York was playing with house money. The expectations were low for them last year, and they had a pretty good year, and now they're a really good team now. But um, they just didn't have the depth last year in the shooting. Now they have the shooting, and they've been shooting the ball just as good as anybody in the league. But you look at a guy like Donovan Mitchell as well. He's really been able to elevate his game this year because of that. He has more space on the floor. He's shown more of a playmaking ability that I didn't know he really had. I mean, he's really developed into a great playmaker in his career. But they have a good chemistry as a team. They have an offensive cohesion now. They move the ball really well. A lot of people thought, what would it look like when Mobley and Garland came back? Would it be bad? But I think they've kind of figured out. I know Luke Walton was added on the staff 2 years ago to be kind of that offensive coordinator kind of guy. And you're seeing that system now in the year two, which makes sense. It's year two now. You should start to see some improvement and just a lot more space, a lot more pace. A lot more pace, a lot more spacing. And I think this team is really dangerous in the playoffs. I think right now they probably are the second best team in the East behind Boston. And I don't know many other teams in the playoff series, if they keep playing like this, they can beat them. And a lot of it is because of this guy right here, Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley has really evolved his game this season, especially since he was out with the injury. And he's really shooting the three now. And that was the one weakness in his game. Really, I thought the only weakness he had left was developing that three ball. And ever since he's come back a little over a week ago, he's been really shooting the ball well from the outside. And that's huge because you can see right there he has the inside game. He's always had the post up game. He's got the mid range. He can really pass. He's an underrated passer for big man. But this shot, see the pass there, and the moving off the ball back to the rim there. That's beautiful basketball. And that's what I like about this team. They don't stop moving. A lot of teams they pass the ball and guys just stand there. You see right here Mobley with the three, bang. He's been doing a lot of that since he's been back, which is huge for them because that makes them even more of a dangerous team. And I just think too, like I said, I like the way this team moves off the ball, which is very important. I think that's somewhere basketball is really at the youth level on up is just not taught well like it used to be. It's showing guys how to move off the ball, proper spacing, proper filling in the lane, cutting off the ball, reading, reacting, spot up shooting, getting to the, just playing basketball really. But this team does it really well. They pass the ball well. You can tell they have a chemistry. Sam Merrill, and here you go, Mobley getting another three. The Sam Merrill kid as well, like that play there was all because of Sam Merrill's shooting ability. If you go back to that play, actually, let me go back. This is what's going to make them dangerous if Mobley's able to hit this three. So you see here, I'll give you guys a little film breakdown. Merrill, who's been shooting the crap out of the ball, is probably one of the best shooters in the league right now. He comes off the pick and roll here, and you can see the defense blitzes him because they're worried about him pulling up right there on the wing, which he's proven to shoot off the ball very well. But Evan Mobley in the past would have sank down right here, right, and tried to get this ball here and try to get down the lane. But now he's able to just step back out and to shoot this three, and it's just an easy pass and shot here. And I mean, that's great basketball, and all because you have shooters now like Sam Merrill, a guy who's evolved. It opens up everything for everybody else. But Mobley able to step back like that, and to be able to shoot that three now, it's taken this team to a whole new level. That I think they're more dangerous now than before. Garland and Mitchell got back. Or not Garland and Mitchell, it's Garland and Mobley who got back. I mean, before those two came back, they were playing really well, and people thought, like I said, those two were gonna. It was talked about in the media. Are these two going to come in and mess it up because they could have messed up playing styles? But I think they've actually gotten better. I mean, it's a credit to JB Bickerstaff and that great coaching staff he has. They have a great coaching staff up there. A lot of great coaches on there, and again, I think it's a credit to him and his staff, and I think it's a credit to a guy like Evan Mobley who worked his ass off that time being. Shooting the ball every day. You could tell I remember there was clips of him I saw in the gym when he was off, putting up shots, pregame shoot arounds, shooting the three, repping it out. And you're seeing it work out now. And it's helped the team tremendously. And this team's gonna be really tough to beat. So really tough to beat. And like I said, the way they moved the ball there, like you saw in some of those clips there, I love the way they move the ball. And in a playoff series, it's those little things like that make the difference. It can take the pressure off a guy like Donovan Mitchell, who you'll need to close the game. And you have a guy like Garland, too, who can also create his own shot. You know, you look at them against other teams like Boston. I don't think Boston as good as a bench as us. I think the Cavs go 10, 11 deep. Boston's very top heavy. And Boston's issue in the postseason for the last 4 years now, really since 18, when Tatum got there, is they haven't been able to close the deal when it matters most. So if they go against that real team that really challenges them, they haven't been able to close the deal. And a lot of times their bench has not been great. And I don't think their bench this year is as good. I mean, if I look up Boston's bench here and their stats, in Philly now with Embiid injured, and Milwaukee looks kind of like a mess with Doc Rivers coming in, and they just look very lost and no identity. Now they brought in Pat Bev today in Milwaukee. We'll see what that does. But now the Knicks, though, I think the Knicks are a really good team. The Knicks also made trades today at the deadline for Bojan, a shooter, and Bojanovic, and they brought in Alex Burke, who's a nice player off the bench. But my problem with the Knicks, though, is they gave up Emmanuel Quickley earlier in the year. Emmanuel Quickley was a one-on-one player who could create his own shot, maybe the best six man in the league right now. And when you watch that game against the Lakers last Saturday night, right, when the Lakers played the Knicks, granted OG Anunoby was out and Julius Randle was out, but you look out on the perimeter at the end of that game when the game got tight. The Lakers started doing what? They started double teaming Jalen Brunson, and when they started double teaming Jalen Brunson and blitzing him out on the perimeter, it shut them down. They didn't score a basket until the game was over, really. The game got out of reach. They didn't score the ball for like almost 8 minutes. And I thought that was a big problem I saw in a matchup, in a game like that. That was a big game, Saturday Night Live, prime time, and, well, obviously, but Saturday night, prime time, live on ABC against the Lakers, all the LeBron hoopla about New York's going on. And, I mean, that was a big game in the Garden. And you just saw, though, when the Lakers really started to double him, it showed a weakness in their team. I thought that I don't think a lot of teams maybe pick up on, because when you're in an 82-game season, some nights, not every game's like that one. So, but I think that could be a problem for them down the road, the Knicks. And if the Cavs matched up with them again in the playoffs again, I think it'd be much different this time around because, I think the Cavs have home court advantage again. Now, did it matter last year? No. But the second part, though, why I think it could help this year, because I think the Cavs are just a better team overall than they were last year. But the Cavs have three guys out on the perimeter that create their own shot. And Mitchell, who's playing probably his best ball of his career right now. Garland, who created his own shot and can spot off the ball and shoot. And Karis LeVert can create his own shot. And Karis been playing great. And so when you look at the Knicks, the only guy outside of Brunson on the perimeter to create his own shot is nobody. I mean, Josh Hart's a nice player, but I don't know if Josh Hart is that kind of guy. He's a 7.5 per game scorer. Um, a lot of their points come inside from Julius Randle with 24 points, but the Cavs have a really good post play now with with Mobley and Allen. You can kind of balance that out, and I think they're much better defensively. They'll be much better defensively this time around because I think Mobley has more experience, and Allen just looks like a different dude this year than he was last year. So, um, and they also have Tristan Thompson. He'll be back in the playoffs. I think he'll help because has that experience. You can put him out there in the game in certain, good minutes. I think he'll give you good playoff rotation minutes just off of experience. But you look at the Cavs though compared to the Knicks. I mean, like I said, I don't think the Knicks have many shot creators outside of Jalen Brunson, and so I think that could really benefit the Cavs. I think the Cavs, like I said, they have 3 guys out on the perimeter, and they have all the shooting in the world. So, but the big part though is Evan Mobley and his involvement as a 3-point shooter has really, I mean, that's been very, I don't know. I mean, it's taken them a whole nother level really in the last 2 weeks. So, I'm liking this Cavs team right now. I like their chances in the East against anybody. To be honest with you, in a 7-game series, I think they're gonna be a tough out because they're young. They're playing with a chip on their shoulder, and people are gonna count them out. People are gonna say, "Oh, it's just Cleveland. They'll lose in the first round again." So the expectations aren't going to be they're high, but they're not going to be as high as other teams. I think their expectations aren't as high as Boston's or Milwaukee's or Philly's. All those teams have MVP candidates. Now we have one in Mitchell, but I think those other 3 teams have higher expectations pressure wise, than the Cavs do, which I think will help the Cavs. So I think they're because they're kind of a sneaky team right now. Nobody's really talking about, but yet they're the hottest team in basketball. So I like what I've seen from the Cavs, like I said, and yeah, I like what I'm seeing right now, and I like where they are and where they're heading. So, I'm gonna take a quick break, real quick. I gotta get my notes readjusted, and when I come back, I'm gonna move on to my last segment about more than anxiety. Some more than anxiety wisdom for you guys, but being true to yourself. So I'll be back in uno momento.
Um, because people put labels on you. So sometimes people believe them. After a lot of constantly people saying, "Oh, you're this, you're that," you know, you'll never do this, you'll never be like that, whatever.
I
Sometimes you
think this
believe
is
them.
important. I wrote this down right here because this is key for people our age, especially somebody like me who's 23, single. Is not to don't wear the labels the world might say you are. And so people could tell me in my life, some of the things I in my personal life, obviously because we're good friends, but certain things maybe I haven't achieved yet because of what happened to me, just because of circumstances. But if I were to keep wearing that label of I don't have X, Y, and Z yet, or you know, if I would go by the world standards and the pressure, and sometimes even your own family, and he even said in the sermon earlier, he said sometimes the wisest thing for you to do, nobody will agree with you, literally nobody, and that could be your own. It could be everybody around you, but as long as you listen to the voice and you can feel that conviction, what, why should you be afraid? Why not? What's there to be? What I mean? That should give you somewhat of a confidence, and it's hard to do because when everybody around you is telling you what to do, you can start to wear I could have started to wear those labels and started to you know I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today though. I can tell you that I'd be in a deep hole. So I guess kind of what we talked about this in our last episode we did too, back I think it was like in October,
Yeah.
about being bold and courageous, and because that's really what it is. I think surrendering it takes a leap of courage, of faith, and so I guess kind of what are the things that have helped you in your past, or what some words of encouragement people out there, especially our age, watching about you know uh, being bold and courageous, and not wearing your past, not wearing the labels and all that.
It's something that's it's easier said than done, but you definitely have to try to
Mm.
surrender it all to God. Just giving it to Him, laying at the foot of the cross, and just trusting Him through it all. Um, because people when people put labels on you, so sometimes people believe them. After a lot of constantly people saying, "Oh, you're this, you're that," you know, you'll never do this, you'll never be like that, whatever. Sometimes you believe them. After hearing it enough, and then
Mm.
um, at the end of the day, it's just lies. But you have to trust that you know Christ is going to set you free, as He said He will. You just got to take the first step and surrender it to Him first before He takes it, because He's not
Right.
going to do it forcefully. He's going to do it. He wants you to take the first leap of faith.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back to the real. Yeah. So before I went to break there, like I said, I was gonna pull up Boston's stats, and you look at you look at their bench outside of they go Tatum, Brown, Porzingis, White, Holiday. Those are all their double-digit scores. That's five guys. But outside of that, I mean, Sam Hauser, good shooter. Al Horford, an older player. Peyton Pritchard's a good player, but he's not really a guy that's going to create his own shot or anything. Um, so we'll see what happens, though. I mean, like I said, I like the Cavs and their depth. I think they go 10, 11 deep. So, but moving on, though, to my last segment, shout out to the Pies on there, too, in the commercial there. A little break, whatever you want to call it. But I want to touch on this today. And one of my favorite verses right here, James 1, 2 through 4, right? And a lot of what I was talking about earlier about being true to yourself and, you know, not worrying about, if things don't go your way in life or if things happen in life or if you find yourself in trials and temptations to, it's easy sometimes for people when for us as humans, when we get stuck in certain situations to want to give up in life or we get frustrated, right? We allow our frustration, our disappointments at times in life they can lead us down paths that aren't healthy for us mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And we can start to look at the outside world as our source and as our light, right? And a lot of times we're not being true to ourselves, not true to who we really are. And we allow ourselves to be changed and molded by the outside world. And when we start to do that, we start to, lose sight of who we are, number one, but we kind of lose our identity in a way. And we kind of move our identity in a way that we're trying to be liked and fit into the world, and we're trying to be accepted by people, right? And we allow our pain, our disappointment, or whatever to control us. That's all it is. And when you allow that to happen, like I said, you can shift not only your identity in the wrong direction, but also your mental health as well, your anxiety and your fear, your depression. All those things can spiral even more because you start to suffer in imagination. You start to imagine things in a different way, in a negative way. I think a lot of times we suffer more in imagination than we do in reality. So, um, and not only that, you can become angry. Something I've had to work through in my life, especially in the last 2 years, unpacking all those layers. Because when all this stuff started, I was angry. I was angry at people. I thought people let me down at 15 years old, and that situation happened to me, which I've talked about on the show. Go back and watch my first episode if you don't know what I'm talking about. Um, Basically, though, I had an incident 15 years old in high school where I had to leave school, and I felt people let me down, right? And I had to leave school, but I felt like I was being attacked, and people were labeling me and judging me, and that's something I used to struggle with a lot. I mean, like, which caused my agoraphobia for a long time. Why agoraphobia? Why I didn't leave the house for a year? Why I stayed away from people, avoided certain situations and interactions. Um, it wasn't until the last 2 years, especially like in 2022, coming out doing this show, and then I did some things in my personal life as well where I challenged myself in different ways, put myself out there with people and interest I had at that time, and um, it wasn't easy. Looking back at it now, it was a lot of anxiety back then, even 2 years ago, doing certain things when I started the show. Like I said, some of the stuff in my private life, times where I was still nervous and shy, and it kind of reflected in how I was talking to people and stuff. But I had to overcome that fear. I had to push myself through that fear, and I bet on God. I said, God, there's certain. I wish, obviously, I want certain results and things to go my way, and I can't wait for certain things, but I trust you anyways. And I feel like it was in God's will for me to do a lot of things in the last 2 years, and at times things didn't go the way I wanted. There was times where I felt disappointed, even recently. But looking back at it now, everything's always moving forward. But God also knew what he was doing all along. And God also has probably spared me from more trouble than I've ever realized in the last 7, 8, 9 years. So, God sees things that we don't see behind the doors, behind closed doors and behind our backs. And or maybe not, and not attacking people, not personal people or anything, not attacking anyone, but sometimes God knows what's best for you, right? And what couldn't, and your situation and who you are, who he made you to be, and what his plan and will is for you. And so, looking at all that, right, that's what's helped me stay true to myself. But also, at times, if you find yourself in situations where you're going through something and you're struggling, having a hard time, battling with it, you just got to remember that you just got to stay true to yourself. But also, only one thing matters. And even if you don't believe in God, if you're somebody listening to this that doesn't believe in God, that's your free will. That's between you and God. And I'm not judging you. I love you the same. I love everybody, really, honestly. It's just kind of that's a point I'm at in my life now. I'm not competing anymore with people. Like all this competition going on in society and people competing with each other for the wrong reason. It just creates an envy and an ego. It's your ego. You get your ego out of control, which is not good for your mental health long term. It's not. You may think it is. You may think you're the man right now. Your ego's out of control or whatever, or this or that, or you got this status, but it doesn't last. It don't last because it's not on a good foundation. And God didn't make us that way. God didn't make us to compete with others and worry about what's going on in the outside world. Because all you're doing is setting yourself up for failure in the long run. It don't matter how much money you have or what car you drive, what house you live in. None of that crap matters. It doesn't matter. And, because the only thing that matters is you and God's will for your life. Nothing else matters. What's going on in the outside world, being true to yourself. And you're actually more of a likable person when you're like that. People attract to authenticity more than they do, obviously, fakeness, because there's not much of it anymore in society because everybody's getting caught up in this image and likeness and trying to live a certain way and this social media approval lifestyle. And it's not healthy for us. It's not healthy long term, like I said. But we suffer more in imagination, like I said, than we do in reality. And a lot of that's because we focus on the outside world and what the world says to do rather than what is God telling me to do? What is my true passions like? What is my true self saying to me? Who do I really want to be? I didn't get to this point in my life after what I've been through, the hole I was in. I wouldn't have made it this far because I looked at the outside world, or I started competing with people, or I got to measure up to so and so. I'd still be in a dead end situation. And so, again, and if people don't want to accept you for who you are, don't take it personal. That's their problem. That's their, like I said, something I had to work through was realizing that nobody was judging me, and that if people say things a certain way to me or talk a certain way or um, whatever, and it's their problem. I ain't taking it personal, and it ain't affecting my life. And as long as you treat everybody with respect and you stay true to who you are, just keep it moving, and the right people will find you. God will keep the right people in your life and remove people that aren't good for you or that maybe aren't meant for you. And like I said, it ain't personal. It's love and peace and gratitude always. Those are my three things: love, peace, and gratitude. That's the three things I've been really working on more and more in my life in the last 3 months. And I've gotten out and gotten back to normal life and back to just as free as I've ever felt in 10 years doing that. So, and do I have good days and bad days? Absolutely. I had today alone. I had a bad moment earlier today. I'll tell you guys right now. I had a moment earlier today where sometimes stuff happens. We have moments in the day. But what I don't do now, like for instance, 2 years ago, if I would have had that day, or a year ago even, I'll say a year ago, I would have did this podcast today. I would have avoided it. But I learned through going through the Inner Circle program last spring with the anxiety guy and how much I've grown and the person I've evolved into now and the new chapter of my life in this last year, because of all that, that it's just moments. Emotions are just emotions. Feelings are just feelings. Thoughts are just thoughts. But I don't identify with those things because they're not reality. I can move off of them quickly. I allow them. I surrender. I allow them to pass. but I also keep my day going. They don't dictate what I do anymore in my life. People on the outside world aren't going to dictate what I do with my life anymore like they used to. Because I used to allow them to, or I used to allow my imagination to lead me down a wrong path, right? So, which is something we all struggle with, especially as people with anxiety sufferers. It's all in our imagination a lot of times, right? It's all in our imagination. And a lot of it's because of our own insecurities. It's our own faults, our own things, because we're looking at the wrong. And I say our own fault because we choose what we put energy into, what we pay attention to, what we focus on, what we measure ourselves up to, what we place value on. Now that's on us. That's something, like I said, a lot of what I'm saying to you guys right now is a good reminder I've had to check myself with. It's good for all of us. You know what I mean? We all have to be reminded, especially in this climate nowadays with the phone and all the temptation on there and social media and just out in the outside world and the pressure nowadays and everything that's gone on in the last 4 or 5 years. It's a lot. But I think we all need to just take a deep breath and just remember who you are. All right. Just slow down and focus on what's important and watch what it does for you mentally. And if you find yourself in a situation that maybe you were let down or disappointed, or maybe things aren't going your way, you're having a tough time right now, just like this verse says right here, I put on the screen earlier, James 1:2-4. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into divers temptations. Did I say that right? Divers. Okay, you guys know what I mean. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into divers temptation, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. But let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. So again, like it says there in the first verse, count it a joy, right? Count it a joy when you're in temptations, when you're in a trial, knowing this is the trying of your faith working patience. But let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. So that's a very powerful verse there. And a verse, one of my favorites, like I said earlier. Diver's temptation. How about that? So, I'm just every time I look at this verse, and I didn't mean to misspeak on the first part, but I was looking at my notes at the same time. But anyways, sometimes when I'm doing the show, I'm looking at like two different things. My phone went off again. I'll get to this alert in a second. We're on something serious right now, but again, consider it a joy when you're in a temptation, you're in a trial. And why does God say that? Because it's actually whenever you find yourself in a moment in a trial, going through a hard time, um, that's God really getting ready to move you in the next step of His will, right? And that's what I had to remind myself when I get in times or when I was in my days, rough days. I always had to view it as in a divine perspective. What's God really doing here? And what God was really doing in my life was setting me up for where He was moving me next, right? It's just like the week when I started this podcast. I started on April 2nd, 2022, which was a Saturday. Um, I did not plan to do it that week. That week before, that Monday to all the way to Friday was one of the roughest weeks of my life. Went through hell, right? But God had to allow certain circumstances around me to happen and put me in that situation that week because had He not done that, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today. I wouldn't be 135 episodes in. Guaranteed. Because I was putting it off. I was an idea to do this. I knew God was calling me to do this, but I kept putting it off because I was scared and I was fearful and it was my own insecurities, right? And sometimes, like I said, we allow ourselves to get in our own way. But that's what it was. But God had to put me in a situation where I had no choice. And by the end of that week, that Saturday morning, when I got up and my dad and I went and drove around a little bit, during some errands, I saw a homeless person, like in a pretty homeless part of Akron, where I was that day. And I remember it was just like God spoke to me. After all I went through that week, and I saw that person, remember my dad looked at me and he was like, because my dad was like, you need to just go do it. You know what I mean? Just go do it. You know, it's time. You know, God was speaking through him to tell him and other people, like, you need to go do it. It's time. It's time. The guy you saw in the little thing break there earlier, Paisan Zabarelli, prayed for me on the phone the day before and said, you know, prayed about doing the show. And look what happened the next day. God was setting me up through my trial and all my pain I went through that week, which it was rough at times, really rough. Um, some dark moments in that week. I remember like that Wednesday night was a really rough night. Just bad with anxiety and panic, bad. But God had to lead me through all that and put me in that circumstance, like I said. But I had, by the end of it, through it all, He left me where I had no choice, where I knew this is what I had to do, and it was time to go do it. And so it was really a joy, and it was a joy in the end. Because I remember when I did the show that night and I put it out finally with the episode, the recording, I finally released it, and I didn't know what I was doing. I just like put it up there, didn't hit enable comments, nothing. I didn't know anything about any of this stuff. I just uploaded it and I said, okay, upload. Just put it up there. I didn't know what I was doing. And I remember I released it at 9 o'clock that night. And as soon as I released it, I just like hit upload and I shut the computer, I shut the thing down. I just ran in the shower. I was like, I'm gonna go take a shower. My dad went and picked up dinner. And I was like, I just didn't want I threw my phone out away from me, like in a different room. I just said, okay, I just put it out in the world. And I was like, I remember I was in the shower. I was like, God, I was like, I trust you. I trust you. This is what you call me to do. I don't know what's going on right now, but who's seeing it? What's going on? But I just let it go. And by the time I got out of the shower, I was out in the hallway. And by the time I couldn't make it back, my dad ran upstairs and was like, "Do you not believe my phone's going? People are calling right now. My phone's going off the hook." I mean, I looked at my phone. My phone was blowing up, and it was just I did not expect that at all. And it was an awesome feeling. It was something I'll never forget. That next morning when I got up and just realizing what I had just done, man, I would have ran through a brick wall. It was unbelievable. But again, and I've had that some moments like that in my life many a couple other times, and ain't nothing like it. And but again, my whole point is, if I can do it, you guys can do it. And if you got to go through a trial, embrace it. Consider it a joy, like it says, no matter what you're going through, and just stay true to you, because God's doing something in your life that you probably aren't even aware of. And you may not know. Maybe you're like me. Maybe you're putting something off, and you know you need to do it. Keep praying to God about it, and say, God, give me the faith. God, give me faith. God, give me faith. And watch what He does, because that's what He did with me. He put me. He had to move me. He had to shake me up a little bit because I was being stubborn. It wouldn't do it. Um, and but I'll tell you one thing though. That was the first stepping stone for me into doing other things in my life. 2 years ago, there's things I've done since that day, that week, that if you'd have told me that person that time, the things I've done since then, I'd have been like, no way. Like, no, like that person then would have been too scared to do the things I've done since and doing now. Like it wasn't even a thought because I was still fearful and I was being stubborn and lying my past still to kind of dictate me a little and dictate my actions and control me a little bit. And so, um, but yeah, that's the message I want to share with you guys today. Just be true to yourself, and only one thing matters at the end of the day, and that's God's will for your life. And like I said, if you're somebody out there that doesn't believe in God, you know, anybody's welcome here. I'm not, that's my relationship with my Lord Savior Jesus Christ is what I share in this show, and that's what I stand by. It's who I am as a person. But if you're somebody out there, maybe you don't believe in God, that's okay, and all are welcome here. But again, I'm not, I'm trying to help everybody. And like I always say though, even if you don't believe in God or don't believe in it, you got to believe in something. You got to believe in yourself. You got to believe in what you're doing. And that's my whole point to you guys is believe in where you are. Look at the positive. Try to find how can I take your bad of what you've been through. That's what I've done. I took and what Dennis Simsek, the anxiety guy, did was one of my good friends and you know biggest anxiety guy on YouTube. And look at all the stuff he went through. And we took our bad baggage. Him and I went through a lot of similar stuff for years. But you take all that bad and you turn it into something good and positive to help the world. You can take all the things, all your things, baggage and bad things maybe you went through, who you used to be or whatever. You can take all that stuff and turn it into something good and help other people. You know what I mean? You can help other. There's nothing more important in life than helping people and impacting other people, serving others. There's nothing more. You can shoot a basketball or make millions of dollars or be an entertainer. Or, oh my gosh, you got all these followers online and a check mark next to your name and blah blah blah. That stuff don't really matter. The only thing that really matters is how you impact people, how people remember you. It's better like to be remembered than to be liked. I'd rather be remembered. It's like Joey Diaz, one of my favorite comedians. And Joey's an incredible guy. I mean, grew up rough, incredible story. Go listen to his background and just his story and how far he's made it in his life. But, Joey does, like, if anybody's familiar with, like, with comedy, a lot of times, like, comedians, they go to, like, certain comedy stores and stuff like that, and they do certain sets, all right? So, like, they'll have a night where it's, like, 5 different comedians, let's say, and let's say Joey's the third comedian. Each guy gets, like, 10-minute spot, right? And so but it's like Joey said, he goes, "When I used to go up to the Comedy Store," this is out in LA when everybody used to live out there before COVID, the Comedy Store was like it. That was like where all the top comedians went, right? Joe Rogan ran it, I believe, was a big part of it. That was the spot out there. And so, still might be out there, I don't know. But, Joey Diaz said something one time. He goes, "When I go down to the Comedy Store," he goes, "when I go up there on stage, my goal isn't to be the best comic. His goal ain't to be the best comic. His goal is to be remembered." And that's powerful. There's a difference in the two. And it's a different mindset too. And when you have that mindset too, like I just laid out, the things on the outside world, the pressure and the anxiety that you may have, the fear, the depression, it goes away because you're no longer giving the things that feed into it energy. You know what I mean? You're not giving it energy because your mindset's changed, right? Your mindset has changed. Your mindset has evolved. Your mindset is focused on things that are really important and really matter now. And so, and this is something we all have to be reminded of because we all have desires within us. I have desires within me. There's still things, guys, in my life that I haven't been able to have yet because of circumstance that my anxiety disorder held me out of it for years, you know. Um, but would I give up what I went through to go back and have certain things? No, because they wouldn't have worked out, number one. But also, I'll be the person I am today. And the stuff that people have told me privately behind the scenes and towards me, it's very unbelievable, and I really appreciate some of the things you guys have said. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's pretty cool. It's kind of like it's this is all still kind of new to me. Like some of the interaction now, being especially more that I'm back out more in public now, the normal life and being able to interact with people and put my like normal. It's just some of the reaction from people is in person now. It's just been unbelievable. The love and support and just community and how, it's something when people say something to you about how you've helped them, and there's nothing like it. There's no, and I've did some pretty cool things growing up. Won some championships, national championship, and was part of some cool things and stuff like that. But nothing really compares to that. To be honest with you, it's an unbelievable feeling, and you just feel God's presence in it too, because He's the main character of your story and the author, and you feel like once you're doing God's work, or like I said, if you don't believe, or just doing work that helps people and serving others, it helps you in return and more than you know. And so, yeah, I challenge you guys to do that, to maybe look at that different perspective like that. I know I said a lot there. Um, and I'm sorry I misspoke in the Bible verse as well. That word there kind of threw me off. But you guys know what I mean. It don't matter. Here's that verse one more time. You guys want to read it on the way out of here. If you save it, put it on your phone. If you never knew the verse, go look it up. I highly recommend. If you guys have any questions or anything, you can contact me. My email is below. My social media. You can contact me there as well. The anxiety guy, you can go contact him as well. He's pretty open. He'll get back to you. Great guy, Dennis, good friend of mine, and good mentor of mine as well for many years. Um, Yeah, you're not alone. So if you need any help or resources, feel free to contact me or an anxiety guy, or just reach out to somebody maybe who can help you out, who you look up to, or can help you where you are. You speak up. Don't hold it in. Don't be embarrassed. You're not alone, right? You're not alone. You're not. Just let it go. Like, just for yourself. You got to ask yourself, how much is enough? You know what I mean? You just got to let it go. So that's all I got for you guys today. Like, subscribe. Please subscribe. Please subscribe until everybody else subscribe. I need the subscriptions up. Help me really. I'm almost get over 100 now. That'll really help me really start to take off more and more now, get more traction. So please help me out there. Share this content. Um, yeah, and I love all you guys. And I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out of here. Gone.